Hello, YouTube. This is Uncle Bear tuning in, just doing some more brain dumping this evening. This evening, I kind of wanted to talk about the Tennessee Titans and their move to bring in their new general manager. Um, I believe his name is Mike Borgonzi. And, I kind of waited a little bit just to kind of see like where they were going with this because I know I made a video earlier saying, why not call Deion Sanders? Seemed like there were a lot of pieces in play to where they could possibly get Travis Hunter and possibly Shador Sanders, depending on how they play their cards. But it doesn't seem like they're going that route. But I kind of wanted to just, wait a little bit and see, like, just kind of like what they were thinking about doing. So there were a couple of interviews that I watched. One was with Chad Brinker, the interview on 104.5 The Zone. I feel like that was a very good interview. And there was another one with Easton Freeze with Brian Callahan. I believe that both of those are pretty good, solid interviews as far as talking to the sources directly. And so when I heard Chad's take, it sounded like he spoke about the importance of camaraderie between the head coach, the QB, and the general manager. And so obviously they have their general manager and they have their head coach, but I think there may be questions around the quarterback, and I'm going to get into that a little bit. Um, Chad and Mike, they said they had a pretty big bond as far as like speaking the same language. It sounded like they both came from the Green Bay Packer culture. I'm not a Packers fan, but I think anyone that's followed the NFL can say that the Packers have a respectable organization in terms of their history. And so also Andy Reid came from that organization. So there's a way that they do things that continuously give them a certain amount of talent. They're not perfect every year, but I think every year they're pretty much kind of competitive in certain ways. And so I was kind of excited to hear about that part. Um, when Chad was talking about the draft itself, he said obviously that he's open to doing trades in terms of getting more draft capital. I think him and Mike Borgonzi kind of agreed that they kind of wanted to get more draft capital, but Chad also said that um, he doesn't that you just don't pass on generational talent. So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. Um, One very thing that I really wanted to hear, at least Chad or somebody in the organization talk about, was how they wanted to put emphasis and make it a priority to um, have grown a homegrown developed roster. In my last video, when I kind of talked about some of the Titans' issues, is I just didn't feel like the Titans knew who they wanted to be. It seemed like every year they're just changing up things, and they didn't really have a solid foundation on things. And I felt like Chad bringing that up in terms of putting emphasis on homegrown talent. Harold Landry, Jeffrey Simmons. These are players that they drafted, believed in, paid, and kept on as leaders as their team. And I think they want to kind of keep that going. And I'm all for that. I'm not a Steelers fan, but I respect what they've done with their roster over the years. When they think about the old school Steelers, at least in my generation, I think about Jerome Bennis and Hines Ward, and yeah, those may have been older players on that roster at the time, but I feel like they were like the heartbeat in terms of this is who we are as an organization as far as on the roster and team. And so I think that the Titans kind of want to go in that direction. I'm all for that. Um, Callahan had an interview with Easton Freeze, and this just based off of that interview, it doesn't seem like he's totally sold on Will Levis. Um, I could be wrong, but that's just me just kind of hearing how he was speaking about the quarterback situation. He wasn't necessarily trashing Will Levis, but you know when you if you've watched Will Levis and you kind of hear what he's expecting from a quarterback, it just doesn't quite add up. But Callahan says that he's looking for a quarterback that's accurate and can handle stress. And he also claims that the accuracy part can be fixed. And I kind of want to talk about that for a second because, you know, obviously I'm not a coach, so I'm not going to say that things cannot be done. But I have seen coaches come in with ego, and that ego has, in my opinion, kind of messed up roster development. So I'm gonna pause here for a second, kind of talk about Mike Vrabel and Mike Mularkey for a second. Mike Mularkey, when he was here, I'm not gonna say he was the best coach in the world, but I do know that that locker room respected him. And I think what he and Dick LeBeau had going on, I wish Dick LeBeau was a little younger because I felt like if they had another 2 or 3 years, I think that they would have done something amazing with that roster. But it was clear to me that the players definitely respected the the coaches and the what they had going on at the time. And I understand that the Titans organization fired Malarkey because they felt like they could get a better coach and Mike Vrabel. I mean, he's won some Super Bowls and been successful on other rosters, so I can understand why they thought that. But when it comes to the ego, I think where Mike Vrabel messed up is when he lost the locker room was when he kind of got into it with Dean Pease, our defensive coordinator. Dean Pease, I mean, he's a great defensive-minded coach, and it was clear that some of the players were divided in the locker room as far as like who to follow. I think where Mike messed up was the Kansas City championship game when he took away Dean Pease's authority, and I think that that rubbed some of the players the wrong way. I mean, keep in mind before Vrabel did all that. Again, I understand that Vrabel's a defensive-minded coach. He's a defensive player, but I think it's where that ego got involved. Like he was trying to put his stamp on the defensive legacy, and maybe reluctant to give Dean Pease his credit in terms of the defensive development that he had on that roster at the time. Because they were whooping butt at the time. They beat the Patriots. They beat Baltimore on away games. And I don't know if Mike Vrabel really had too much to do with that in terms of on the defensive side. But that defense played lights out. And so, but there was definitely just conflict within the locker room in terms of in the leadership between Mike Vrabel and Dean Pease. And I think that that played a role in some of the players maybe not taking Mike Vrabel as seriously because I mean they're in there that they knew who was calling the plays and who they believed in, and I don't think they quite believed in Mike Vrabel as much as they believed in Dean Pease, and I think that was the beginning of just the division in the locker room. Just my personal opinion, but going back to Brian Callahan, he says that the accuracy issues with Will Levis or really any quarterback can be fixed. And I'm not gonna say that it can be fixed. 'Cause I'm not the coach, but I just hope that this isn't another situation where ego gets involved and you think that you can just fix something that's not fixable, and then you end up just kind of wasting time. And so I kind of want to go back to just the differences between at least what I see in Will Levis, Shador Sanders, and Cam Ward. Um, Me personally, obviously, I'm a Tennessee Vols fan, so I kind of watched Will Levis from a difference while he was in the SEC. And to me, even when he was in college, he just didn't seem to be that guy to me. I mean, I'm not trying to be biased because I'm a Vols fan. I just saw how he played, and he just seemed to be okay. I mean, he had his moments, I guess, but he just didn't seem to be like, whoa, like who's this dude? Like, you know what I mean? And so when he came into the league, I'm thinking like, maybe the NFL just knows something that we don't know. And so the thing about Will Levis is when I look at him now versus what I remember in college, to me, he's still just kind of the same Will Levis overall. His rookie year when he came in, he had some really flashy moments. I think everybody was really happy and excited about that. But I also remember Mike Vrabel not really being, like the type of guy that was kind of boosting his ego. Like, yeah, he's that dude. It seemed like he wasn't too sold on him himself. And we got to remember, I don't know who made the call to bring in Will Levis. I don't know if it was Mike Vrabel or what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. It's escaping me. But the general manager just got fired from the Titans. But basically, um, I don't know whose call that was to make that call, but to me, Will Levis is just still that guy. Now, when he had that really great game against the Texans, I think he had like 4 touchdowns. Three of them came to DeAndre Hopkins and whatnot. Me just being a fan, just a normal guy, it looked like him and D Hop just had really amazing chemistry, you know? And there's nothing wrong with that, but, sometimes you just get that. Some players are just on the same page. And I was curious to see in this year two of Will Levis's development would that carry on. And to me, it just didn't really show up in the next season. Sure, he had a couple of good moments, but um, to me, I think somebody on ESPN said that he's not Brett Favre, and I think that that's accurate. I think the way that Will Levis plays, that he's bigger than what his actual talent really is, and that ego again kind of gets in the way of you making just boneheaded mistakes. And so, again, when I'm hearing Brian Callahan kind of talk about him, he doesn't quite seem to be as sold on Will Levis, and to me, that kind of goes back to is the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback all on the same page? I don't know. I'm not in there, but you know, just continuing on, I think Will Levis. I don't know if it's our system. I've heard him say that he felt like Mike Vrabel's system was easier. Um, to me, that shouldn't be an excuse. Either you're that guy or you're not. But you know, Brian Callahan has had experience with really great quarterbacks. So, can Will Levis develop into that? I'm not sure. But when I think about these upcoming prospects in the draft, in terms of what Chad Brinker brought up in the interview, saying that we're looking for generational talent, or you don't pass up on generational talent. And to me, it seems like they're kind of looking for a QB first and foremost. But I guess my question is Shador Sanders or Cam Ward or either one of those generational talents? So when I think of Shador Sanders, I think he's a very good football player. I think he has a really great mental aspect in terms of, what Brian Callahan is looking for in terms of someone that can handle pressure or adversity. Shador Sanders has not had the best talent around him overall. Again, he played at Jackson State, Colorado, and yeah, he did some things there, but he didn't have the best offensive line at either one of those schools. And he did. I mean, other than Travis Hunter, he really didn't have the best. Excuse me. The best skill players involved, and so I think when I think about what Brian Callahan was looking for, um, I think that he might favor Shador Sanders a little bit more if he was to choose a quarterback, just because of the mental aspect. When I think about Cam Ward is a phenomenal player. I'm just not sure if he's a generational player. And what I mean by that is Miami had a very just talented offensive line, first and foremost. I mean, they had just 5 stars across the board in terms of their offensive line. And they had a very great skill players, great wide receivers, um, and they put up points. And obviously, Miami had a very great system that fit Cam Ward's style. And so, I know for sure that the Titans, as of right now, don't have the best offensive line. And as of right now, they don't have the best skill players involved. I'm not sure if Cam Ward can duplicate that in the NFL, what he did in Miami. He might. I'm not saying that he won't have success, but as far as like what the Titans have, the Titans definitely don't have the best offensive line as of now. It doesn't mean that they can't keep developing and become a great offensive line, but they're getting better. But I just feel like definitely college and NFL is two different things, and I want to put emphasis on that in terms of making that comparison to Will Levis. Like Will Levis, to me, he was just an above average quarterback in college. And for whatever reason, people thought that he's going to become a superstar. And, I was hoping he would, just being a fan of the Titans, but clearly just watching him, he's still just, an average quarterback, and it doesn't help to have a terrible offensive line to work with in those conditions. So if I had to guess, I would feel like Brian Callahan might like Shador Sanders maybe as an overall prospect in terms of quarterbacks. Um, but I don't know if that still answers the question. As far as the Titans having the number one pick, are these two quarterbacks, Shador Sanders and Cam Ward, are they generational talents? One didn't have a great offensive line, and the other one had an awesome offensive line. So I don't know. It's just kind of hard to see like what they're looking for from that aspect. But I kind of wanted to give just my 2 cents on what I think they might do. I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm just a regular fan that just wants to see the team do well, because obviously when your team does well, I mean the community feels great, and people want to go out and be more active and be a part, and the Titans will sell more tickets. So any decision that they make this offseason to me is crucial. But when I think about what Chad Brinker said in terms of you don't pass up on generational talent, and he says that that it's going to be a we decision, that he will be involved, obviously calling the shots, and the general manager um, uh, Mike Borgonzi will definitely have a say, and Brian Callahan will have a say, that they'll all have a we decision. If I had to guess, like I said, Will Levis, it sounds like they're not quite that they're going to give Will Levis another shot. Obviously, they haven't cut him, so they're definitely going to give him another shot. I can't think of the quarterback's name right now, but I think he plays for Michigan. There's been rumors saying that the Titans might maybe draft him later on in the draft. He's the Titans still have the number one pick, so that means that they have a second round pick at the number one spot. And so there's rumors saying that they might draft that quarterback, the player from Michigan. I don't know. But if they do that, if we're talking about just generational talents, I say Travis Hunter. To me, when I'm looking at film and I'm looking at him with Shador Sanders, I guess my question is, would Travis Hunter, would he be as talented without Shador? And me personally, I think he would be. I think that the development that Deion Sanders gave him was crucial, but in terms of, I felt like Travis Hunter overall probably made Shador look better, because Shador just didn't have the weapons other than Travis Hunter. And so obviously they had great chemistry, kind of like similar to Will Levis having great chemistry with DeAndre Hopkins. But when I think about the chemistry, who's to say that the Titans don't draft Travis Hunter, and all of a sudden Will Levis just balls out? You know what I mean? Kind of like the way he did with DeAndre Hopkins, only Travis Hunter is a younger version, a superstar at that position. Can you imagine him and Calvin Ridley, just really building that bond with either or of those quarterbacks, or maybe bringing in one more quarterback that can they can kind of develop and see who's the best? But I think what the Titans need to do with them bringing in a new stadium and trying to prepare for that, they need to really build this roster up as a team. Travis Hunter can play both sides of the ball at an elite level. Me personally, I think he would be just awesome at cornerback because of his size, speed, and his intelligence of the game. But if he, wanted to play both sides of the ball, and he came in as a slot player or whatever for the Titans, I could see him just, balling out for them. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's the player that helps Will Levis look a lot better than what he is. Like, to me, I don't care as long as they have the camaraderie and just team chemistry as a team. The other player that I think that they could look at in terms of generational talent is Abdul Carter. Now, this is a defensive player solely, But when I watch his film, dude's a beast. Like he's just disruptive, and he's an enforcer, and he's all about just being that guy. As far as like, you're gonna feel my pain, like when I'm rushing the quarterback or stopping the run. Like he's a beast, like for sure. So I don't know if the Titans trade back and go after a player like that. I mean, could you imagine Harold Landry, Abdul Carter, Travaje Sweat, and Jeffrey Simmons being all on the same defensive line, just being a force coming at you? It's going to be nasty. You know what I mean? So they could definitely go that route. Um, but as far as generational talent, based off what Chad Brinker said, and just saying you don't pass up on generational talent, but you know, Brian Callahan saying that you can fix, accuracy. Um, I don't think he's quite sold on Will Levis, but who knows? He might, take it to the next level. I think with all that being said, I could see the Titans drafting Travis Hunter, um, number one overall, or maybe trading with the Browns to let the Browns draft Cam Ward, and then the Titans taking Travis Hunter at number two. I can see one of those two things happening. Maybe the Titans get a little bit extra draft capital because of that trade. Who knows? But I do feel like the Titans definitely still want a quarterback. We'll see what happens in this draft. It's going to be exciting. My biggest thing is what I want to see with the Titans moving forward is obviously you won't. It all starts with your leadership as far as it trickling down, affecting the rest of the team. Me personally, I respected what Mike Mularkey was building with the Titans in terms of the camaraderie. I could see the players fighting hard and making plays, and you could see them just working together as a unit. Me personally, I would rather see that than individual accolades. I understand that some players want to break records to get more money and all that, but as a fan, I want to see the Titans slick start playing some Steeler ball. Like you're gonna feel us, whether it be on defense or us running the ball. Offense. I want to see a we mentality is what I want to start seeing, and I think that starts with the top with leadership. And I think that my biggest concern was I just wanted to hear somebody say we want to start putting emphasis on homegrown development, because to me that just trickles down, that builds culture. Like there's a reason why the Packers are the Packers. There's a reason why the Steelers are the Steelers. There's a reason why the certain organizations are just known for being that way. The Baltimore Ravens are one because they put emphasis on this is what we do and we build upon that. We reward players that follow our system. So, I understand that Rand Carthon, that's the GM I was thinking of earlier. I know that Amy Adams fired Rand Carthon. Honestly, I feel like that was too soon. You got to give the guy time to develop, man. Like, again, I don't know what's going on the inside, but I felt like, give the guy at least this draft to see like what he does with it, because to me, he was doing really well in terms of getting talent, bringing it in. It's not his fault that the players aren't buying into whatever. But I felt like as far as how he was handling the salary cap and the type of talent that he was attracting, me personally, I don't think the Titans get DeAndre Hopkins without Rand Carthon, to be honest, for example. So just some things to think about. Like I said, I'm always going to be a Titans fan. I'm from here. I just really want to see this organization just really like tighten up on what they want to be culturally as an organization. I feel like we were on the brink of that back in the day with Eddie George and them, and they just kind of forgot who they were. But we need to get back to remembering the Titans and remember what that stands for. And keep in mind that, no matter how you want to see it, this is still Vols country. You know what I mean? Like, so if you want to sell out those tickets, you got to appease to the culture as far as how the people here see ball. Like, we're all about family and structure and like tradition, and those things I feel like the Titans are lacking overall. But let's see what they do with this draft and free agency. Maybe they'll get a quarterback in free agency. Who knows? But I think overall, I think that they, based off what I'm hearing and how they're kind of talking, I don't see how they pass up on Travis Hunter if you're talking about not passing up on generational talents. He's going to make you good on defense and offense. And so hopefully he doesn't get hurt. Hopefully whoever gets him can develop him the right way. But I think, the more weapons that you give Will Levis, obviously they'll just get better as a team overall. And that's really just all I want. I want to see the team get better overall. I want to see a team mentality, not no superstars. One of my favorite players on the Vols historically was Al Wilson. And there's some clips from him back in the day talking to, Jamal Lewis, who was a 5-star player himself. Al Wilson set the tone for that 98 championship team in terms of there's no stars on this team. So for me, the Titans, their biggest problem is they got to get that ego out the way. There's too many Chiefs and not enough Indians. And somebody has to become a leader and say that there is no I in this team. I understand Kobe said that, but basketball is a lot different than football. Football is still football. It is a team sport. And so I really want to see the Titans go back to that, whether it's from the top in the organization to the players themselves. I want to see them as an organization go back to a we mentality. And I think the sooner they get back on that, the sooner they'll start seeing results. And I'm excited to see what they do in the next 2 to 3 years. So it's always going to be go Titans, go Vols. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, or share, or tell your friends, or make comments. And just leave comments on what you think. Who do you think that they're going to draft, or what do you think about the new GM? Do you think he'll do a good job? Do you think that they chose the right guy? Just leave your comments. Let me know what you guys think. But in the next time, it's always we go Vols, go Titans, and I'll say bless.